You're tuned in to Just One Hot Mom with host Nanika Ansari. Get ready. She's about to bring you that fire, that flavor, that heat, all that passion, and more from around the world and in your neighborhood. Stay tuned.
Okay. Hey, hotties, you are tuned in to Just One Hot Mom, the show that is all about inspiring and empowering the matriarchs for all families, whether you're a sister, a mother, an aunt, a foster mom, whatever type of mom you are, we want to empower you. We want to love on you. We want to invite you to be a part of our tribe, all while looking fabulously fly. I am your host, Nanika Ansari, and today's show has one of the most special guests in my life ever. It is my daughter, Simone. Say hi, Simone.
How you doing?
Hey, and so if you guys don't recall, my first ever show was called IAmMental, and it highlighted our family's issues with anxiety. And so on that show, I tell my story about dealing with Simone having anxiety and how it affected me as a parent and how it affected our family. But I wanted to invite Simone back on tonight to tell her side of her anxiety story. So, you ready?
Yeah.
Sure? Okay, let's do this. So if you guys haven't heard the podcast in which I talk about Simone's anxiety, please head on over to the YouTube channel and over to the iTunes. It's under Just One Hot Mom, and the name of the show is IAmMental Anxiety. In the show, I talk about how I discovered Simone had anxiety. We were in Walmart, and she just like panicked and froze. And I was like, girl, come down the aisle. Like, why are you just standing so far away? And she was stuck in the aisle. And lo and behold, in that moment when I walked up to her, she couldn't move. She couldn't move, and she couldn't like do anything. So she was just like stuck there in that space. And that's when she told me that, you know, oftentimes she had these fears of spaces with crowded people, and so, and she would start to panic, and she would have panic attacks. And in that moment, you know, as her mom, I just wanted to protect her. And so when did you start to know that you had anxiety? Like, when was your first time that you were like, something is wrong with my, like, you know, or something's going, not wrong, but something's going on with my body because I'm feeling a certain type of way?
More so towards like senior year in high school. It was like I would get on the bus and it would be like, I'm ready to get off this bus, or I'll be in a grocery store and I'll be like, oh, it's a lot of people, maybe I'll go another day. Or when I first started driving, yeah, definitely that really triggered it a lot, because I mean, my mom might say I can't drive, but I taught myself. But yeah, this is like most of the signs that I was like, oh yeah, something's like seriously wrong, and I needed to talk about it. So,
but you kept it hidden for a while. What was your point in like keeping it hidden? Were you embarrassed, or why didn't you want anybody to know that you were having these attacks?
It was more so like, that's weird. So I was thinking like, this is probably the only person. I'm like the only person that this happens to. So I'm like, let me just figure it out on my own, and then I'll be okay eventually. That was a lie, because if you keep going and not, you know, get any help for it, then it gets way worse than what it already was.
And so, in dealing with trying to deal with it on your own, what did you do?
I usually just got in the shower to avoid the whole panic attack. I was just sit in the shower for a long period of time, or like sit or go to sleep, because you can avoid anything in sleep. Or just didn't talk at all. Just was really silent.
Do you feel like during that time, though, you were like angry at us for not trying to figure out what was going on with you? Like, even though you didn't tell us, do you feel like we should have been able to know?
Well, probably like the teenage years. I was probably just because I was a jerk. But no, I wasn't mad at anybody but myself, because I was like, oh my gosh, like, well, I can't be completely normal, like trying to figure out like, why I overthink, or why I was panicking for no reason. And like, I'll be at work and it'll be like, I'll be freaking out, and I'll be like, for what? Like, it happens at most awkward like times.
So when you So when you found yourself in these situations, what would you do? Like, because at the time we didn't know. So if you weren't able to take a shower, or if you weren't able to just go to sleep, like when you were in school, what did you do to kind of deal with your anxiety?
I would pay attention, like try. I would really try really hard, but my hands, I would feel my hands like tingling, because that's like most of the things that happen with anxiety, and I would feel like the urge, like I'm going to pass out, but that's just the breathing, like you taking in too much carbon dioxide, but it was too much.
Too much. So
Too much.
when we finally had that meetup in Walmart, like, what do you think, if you could remember, it was a while ago, so if you could remember,
my whole outfit, so.
if you can remember why you start to panic or why you felt like anxiety came on that day in Walmart, what was it?
I feel like we were in there for hours. So,
No, I'm not a big fan of Walmart. Walmart gives me a migraine.
Yeah, but in that few minutes that we were there, it was like from the lights being too bright, and then from the noises of everybody yelling, somebody's kid is like crying insanely, and then like people are just talking, to like me walking and being this like the only person, like I felt like the only person in there, and I felt like I was going to pass out. And it was just so much happening. Like, you ever see a movie where like everybody's like moving real fast and they're boom, 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 and that person is just spinning and spinning and spinning in circles, and they're like, and then right there I was like, I'm just gonna stop right here. I'm gonna plant myself right here, and hopefully somebody noticed that this is making me really uncomfortable. And I actually blacked out because it was too much. And then when I blacked out, I thought I passed out, but it was just, my mind was like, okay, you can shut down for a second. And then it just came back. So.
Okay, so when we finally made the discovery, well, when I start to notice as your parent that you were having these anxiety issues, because for me, it was me navigating and figuring out what to do. What tips would you give for parents whose kids are like, distributing some of the behaviors? Like, I think one of the things where you became like withdrawn, but it's like, we tend to think that it's typical teenage stuff, but sometimes it's a symptom of a problem. So you were withdrawn. She did take a lot of showers. I thought she was in there running the water. She did sleep a lot. And then, like, her attitude changed. Like, she was always upset and nervous. And I'm like, dude, like, chill out. It's not that deep. But for her, it was that deep. So then when I finally witnessed the episode in Walmart, I was like, okay, let me figure out some things to do. But if there's a parent right now who's watching, whose child is distributing these behaviors and they're kind of anxious and stuff, what are 3 tips you can give them to kind of help open up the conversation?
First would be like the signs, because my signs were like, being really depressed, and usual teenager stuff. We do get a little depressed, but it was like a lot of mood swings, listening to depressing music, crying a lot, a lot of sad stuff. Bad attitude is like the number one thing, because it's like when I would get into like having the panic attack or feeling something, I'll be like, oh, nothing, or just sorry, go ahead, or just like, I don't want to talk about it right now, or just walk away. Because in that moment where I'm about to have that panic attack, it's just like, you can't help me, I can't help me, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to say. So just calmly try to talk your way through it, because even though they're probably being a jerk in that moment, it's helpful, because it shows that you care. I would say bonding, spending time with each other, because as I've grown, we spend a lot more time together. Like I'm actually her stalker, her number one stalker, and bonding really helps. Even if they're in that depressed mood, like, let them get out the house. They have to, because if they're stuck in that, it's just like, that's all they'll ever know. It's and get in their face, get all in their business. Like, do not leave them alone, because if you leave them alone, that just opens up a lot of bad energy, and you don't need that. I don't know, 3.
Do you feel like I didn't leave you alone?
I like that you didn't leave me alone.
I'm a harasser.
I like that she didn't leave me alone. Because my mom, like, one of those people that's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, nothing, Jesus. Is something wrong? And I'm like, oh God, okay, I'll tell you. So get it out of
pressure,
them.
mama pressure. But no, I just think I felt like at the time, like, man, we basically have a really
meditation helps too.
Meditation,
yes.
Like, okay, so
like oils and stuff.
Yeah, we do use a lot of oils. And you know what, they do work. They keep me
oils,
calm.
lavender. I actually use peppermint in my hair. They're great. I'm actually happy about the oils.
But I think at the time I thought we had like a really cool relationship, so it was I feel like everything should have been easy for her to talk to me about, like, you know, but this was something that she kept from me, so I was like a little annoyed with her, like, girl, we could have been got you some help for this. But let me tell you, it was not easy to get her help for this, because like I really left it up to her to determine the type of help she wanted. So when I suggested therapy, oh my God, it was so much pushback. Why did you push so hard initially against the therapy?
First off, I was working so much, so it was just like
that's her excuse.
I never had time to go
excuse.
to therapy. But then again, I made time for it.
But did therapy make you feel some type of way? Like, did you feel like if you went to therapy that would give you validation that something was going on?
I needed to know that something was going on, because wasn't nobody else emotional like me, so I'm like, it has to be something going on with me. But actually, therapy wasn't the thing that triggered me. It was the medication that I was like, no. But you never know.
How long did it take before I got you in therapy? When she initially started, she was 17. When was your first therapy session?
What? Are you talking about recently or
ever?
Just my 21st. What is it?
It was before, no.
It's actually before I turned 21, because I told the therapist about my birthday.
It was the week of her 21st birthday, basically. So 4 long years, and finally she's like, you know what, Mom, I think you might be right. I need to go to therapy. I will tell parents this, is that you can't force anybody into therapy. Like, for me, I always try to keep a really open and honest relationship with my kids. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. Like I said, this whole parenting thing, there is no guide, but there's no direction. But I always try to be open and honest with them. And so when she said she didn't want to go to therapy, I'm like, well, I'm not going to force you to go to therapy, right, but you have to do something, because, like, what if I'm not around? Like, I know a lot of times when she would have panic attacks, she would call me, and then I would, like, kind of talk her through it, like, okay, now breathe. Like, and I'll just give these tips to parents. Like, if your kid is in a panic attack mode, like, the best thing you do is, like, not try to solve the problem, but I would be like, okay, breathe in deep. And she used to be like, Mom, this isn't, I'm like, just do it. Like, just breathe in deep. Like, we would do that 10 times. And I would be like, rotate your neck, like, stretch it out, because sometimes it's the tension that builds up. If you can get them to relax.
The tension makes you feel like you're going to have a seizure, and you're not. It's all the muscle and everything.
So if I could get her to relax, then I could have a logical conversation with her. But if she wasn't relaxed, I couldn't get a logical conversation. Like, it was hard to have a logical conversation with her. And so I learned those techniques myself from, like, just reading up on different alternatives to therapy and medication, since she automatically said she didn't want any medication. And so when it came time, like, when, like, as she got older, and, like, some of the techniques, like, I'm not going to be around all the time. Like, she lives in a totally different house. Like, I can't be there all the time. Like, I'm like, what are you going to do now to take control of this issue? And so what made you go to therapy finally? Like, you never even said it. What made you go to therapy?
I was driving one day, and I noticed that it was weird. You know that little intersection when you on your way to the doctor's office? Is that Brainerd?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was freaking out. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, like, if this light doesn't hurry up, I feel like I'm going to have to speed through traffic and get out the way. But but I calmed myself down, but it was a lot. And I was like, oh God, I have to hurry up and go get therapy or something, because I cannot be trying to speed through traffic looking like the crazy lady on Facebook or Instagram. So I was like, I'm going to go get some therapy. I'm going to go see other techniques. I'm going to try literally everything. And that's what made me take myself to therapy.
But even, I think, you know what, too, I'm going to mention this, too. Even, like, you know, in dealing with my other kids, because you guys know I have 2 other kids. So, in dealing with Simone having anxiety and then making them aware, like, okay, we have an issue as a family. Like, she's not going to fight this on her own. Like, anything my kids go through, they don't got to go through it alone. Like, it's enough of us. We're going to go through it together. But even teaching Jamil, because if I'm not at home and it's just Jamil and Anissa and Simone at home, then Jamil knows how to, like, calm her down. He's like, okay, I got to talk her through it. And, you know, I think some people were like, oh, that's a lot of stress for her brother. But I was thinking, like, that's her brother. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
me and him literally talk about everything.
Yes, they have a really close bond.
So
I gotta get a glass and listen in on the door. But just a matter, I think sometimes we try to keep too many things secret as a family, and so this is something that we were dealing with. So I was just making everybody in the family aware, like my mom, my dad, my sister, and I'm gonna be honest, like some people aren't accepting of diagnosis like that. Like they think it's like all in your head, and I'm like, no, there is something wrong, and it's because we had dealt with a mental issue previously. And so it was like, no, something's not right. We need to get some help for this. And if you're not willing to help, then we're not going to beg you for the help, but we're going to figure it out as a family. And so I'm proud of you for going to therapy finally and for getting, you know, the help that you need. Because sometimes like, she can't talk to me about everything. Well, she can talk to me about everything. I don't think she wants to talk to me about everything.
It's about as much as I possibly can. I mean, I'm not ashamed. Also, you know, I went to therapy and I also take like these medications, but they're like allergy pills. They're just like for sleep. They're like, go get some sleep because that's more. You really need sleep. You really need it. Like that's the key component. Because if you don't get your full 8 hours or 10 or however you
more
need
than
it,
that. Because let me tell
I know.
you,
I need a nap and then the 8 hours plus. Because
as a parent, you know how like when you stay up with a new baby and you're like a newer baby, you go without sleep. Like with a baby, you expect that, but when it's your 18-year-old, you're like, yo, like how long are you gonna be up? Like we've been up for so long.
And now that I work constantly and I'm like, you know, there's nobody there to tell me to go to sleep. I have to literally turn off all the lights and be like, you need to go to bed right now because I can already plan out my day and how it will go if I do not get that sleep.
Well, you know what? That's a good technique too. Like we didn't tell people about that. Like when you go to bed, you have to really go to bed. Like that's even for myself and my migraines. Like when I go to bed, I have to turn everything off. Like the TV has to be off. I might have the oils burning in the background, but the TV has to be off. The light has to be off. The door has to be closed. Like I need complete and total darkness because if it's not completely and totally dark, then my mind will start to be like, and I'll still be thinking of like 15 things I can do. And I've actually gotten up out of the bed and like, I want to clean the house now.
Yeah, I've done that too.
And so does that help you?
Yeah, and then the diffuser, you know, with the lavender and I got one called Mental Clarity, which is real good. I also been starting to go to sleep with like the little yoga music playing in the background, but on low, because it was just like it's real soothing if you find the right one though. Mm-hmm. But
you know, I like the rain sound and the white.
Oh
noises.
yeah, I mean those
now, the
those
white
are perfect.
noises work for me. I love that. Yeah.
I never understood it as a kid. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Why does she have that thing going? I'm like, I can't sleep without it. Okay, so let's talk about this. How did your anxiety affect your relationship with your friends?
It didn't really affect it. I think they didn't even notice.
Really?
I don't think that. Okay, well they knew a little bit because they was like, oh man,
because they know to call her mom. And like, hey, Simone's
well,
mom.
my close friends, my closest friends, they know. They'll be like, oh yeah, you know. Like, my best friend, Justin, he'd be like, did you get some sleep? And I'll be like, how did you know I needed a nap? And he'd be like, I hear it all in your voice, and I see that you look tired. And I was like, well, I'll probably take a nap when I go home. He was like, but really take a nap. And I'm like, I will, I promise. You know, like, my inner circle, know, like, Jalea and all the rest of them.
How important is it to have that support, though? Like, because, you know, most of the times when after you graduate from high school and you guys go on to do different things, you tend to lose contact. But you guys have stayed in touch for a while. How important is it that you have friends that understand that?
Well, you know, only real people will understand, you know, real situations because I've known them through they first breakups and they first girlfriend or whatever, you know, the first person they done dated or whatever. I done been there, they done cried on my shoulder, I cried on their shoulder. So I feel like that bond since we already know each other's faults and everything, that it just can't be broken now just because we out of high school. Like, we'll constantly work. Like, I just called Jalea the other day. She's like, oh my God, I haven't heard from you for like a week. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. But it's like, when you can keep in touch, but you know you guys work, it shouldn't be no problem of having a friendship, because we're grown. I'm not about to sit up and talk about everything with you every day.
But okay, so this one, are you ever afraid that if you reveal this to people who like you just meet, that you'll be judged based on it?
No, actually, I like to reveal it because I found out it was a lot of people that have anxiety. That the first time I revealed it to this girl, because you know I do driving instructing on the weekends. I know you saw the part of the video, but it's in the beginning of the video where I said I taught myself, but I'm teaching other people now. But I found out she has anxiety, and I'm like, oh my goodness, are you okay behind the wheel? Like, is everything okay? And she's like, yeah, but she was nervous meeting me, and I'm like, well, I have anxiety very, bad. And I was like, well, what do you do? And so we traded off, different tactics that we do for our anxiety, but just let people know what's going on with you, because if you get to having a panic attack, somebody is going to be like, oh my God, I'll never talk to you again. And just let them know, because if you don't let them know, then they'll never know, and they'll be just weird now and awkward.
Are there certain situations that you avoid because you think that they'll trigger episode?
Definitely.
Like what?
Driving, driving on the freeway. Oh, because it's just like so much going on. Like, I seen something crazy the other day. Like, somebody was coming up, but we're all going this way. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to get off the freeway, because I just, because I already be thinking, like, if I get into this car accident, my mama is going to be so mad at this person, and I can't let you endure the pain that she will throw on you. And then, like, some people will ask me to go to parties, and I'll be like, I don't really want to go, because it's just so much going on that I'd be like, nah, I don't need to be at that party. And what happened at that party? Somebody get shot. So I just already be like, I'm okay. I'm all right. But that's what the majority of the anxiety be. It'd be like, but I'm not scared to live my life. It's just stuff happens. So I just be playing safe.
I have to say, you got a lot better, because it used to be like I could be gone like for 10 minutes and she would call me and be like, well, where are you at? What are you doing? What is this? And I'm like, girl, I'm grown. Like, I moved out my mama's house 30 years ago. Leave me be. And so, but then I started to wonder, Jamil hates when you do that. Like, she will call Jamil, she will find Jamil. Like, we actually have our phones set up to track each other, but that's just a safety precaution. But Jamil gets upset with that. But I was like, okay, I know this is a part of, I hate to call it an illness. Do you think it's an illness?
It's not, technically it's not an illness. It's more so like I don't know, it's like caution.
It's a situation.
Yeah, it's a situation.
So when a situation comes up, I know that she's really just trying to, keep her own sanity, and that I'm causing her a problem. Because she just wants me to be safe. And so
that's literally what I want everybody to be like. If Anissa's not with her, like the other day,
she thought I lost Anissa.
No, not even that. So my aunt, she lived, off of Chester in the hood, like in the hood. And so I thought Anissa was still there while she was at the radio station. So I'm like, oh my God, my baby, And I'm like, Jamil, where Anissa? He like, oh, she down there. And I'm like, you down where? And she said, Auntie my house. I'm like, I know you lying, because I'm like, I'll go get her then. So I text my mom. I was like, you want me to go get her? She like, no. I'm like, what is going on? So, but all to find out that she was at her grandma's house. So I'm just like,
Jamil is the most nonchalant person you'll ever meet.
He doesn't pay attention.
He does not pay attention. He could have just he could have helped the situation and been like, oh, she's over so-and-so's house. She's not even, but neither here nor there. Like, what could you have done in that situation to kind of remove the pressure from yourself to even like help me out?
Well, it was my house, so I was like, I was like, okay. Mm-hmm. So wasn't too worried, but Jesus.
But you do know that when you're not around, we're okay, right?
Yeah, I know.
You sure?
I'm just the backup.
It's like having another mom.
Like security.
Yeah, that is what like. She's like, Mom, are you okay? Because I don't know how your voice sound today.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm fine. I'm just like tired.
Especially with my brother.
Oh, your brother's crazy. But so let's get back. Sorry, we had a moment there. So if you had to go back to a moment where you had completely lost control, can you describe that moment for us? Because like sometimes like I think people need a visual to determine like to see how it was.
I will also say eat healthy if you have anxiety, because salt is like your worst enemy. Salt and sugar.
I think
their
diet is important.
Yeah, because I remember one day this is when I was working at the daycare. I had ordered some food from California Kitchen or something.
Don't be giving them a shout out.
I know. No copyright, I'm sorry. But they it was salty. I had some chicken piccata and it was like real salty. And I'm like, oh my God. So my heart starts beating like real fast. I'm like, oh my gosh, here it comes. Like this panic attack. Because if you eat a lot of salt and a lot of sugar, it rushes your blood pressure. And you're like, that's it right there. And so it skyrocketed my blood pressure. So now I'm like, oh my God. This is the day I called you when I was on my way back to your house. Mm-hmm. I was panicking so bad that like it was putting me in shock while I was driving. Like my hands were shaking. I could hardly drive. I felt like I was blacking out and everything. Like all, like how you stare at like a light bulb or something. I was seeing like those black things or whatever because I was panicking so badly. So then I finally pulled over and I'm like, if I could calm down fast enough, I'll just go back to the house. But it took me like 30 minutes to calm down because I was freaking out and you were at work. So you couldn't do anything. And I was just like, we hung up from each other because I was like, this is not helping. I can't do anything. I don't know what to do. And like, I got some water, so I started drinking it. I was sat there for a minute. I'm like, what is going on? So then I finally get to the house and I just take a long nap. Even when I woke up from that nap, the panic attack must have been like really exhausting because I was still in panic for some weird reason. But I just know I'll never eat it from there ever again.
So was that one of your worst moments? Like you feel like that was one of the worst moments, like that panic attack?
I had another one like that before, but then my car cut off while I was having a panic attack. So I was like, oh God, this is like ultimate defeat right here. Like, I'm like, man, this can't get no worse like this.
Do you feel defeated though when you have a panic attack? Do you feel defeated?
I only feel defeated if I can't stop it. And those are like the ones I'm like, oh, let me pull up in this gas station and get myself together. Because you can't be driving with no panic attack. I don't care how tough you think you are. A panic attack is as worse as a heart attack. It don't stop. Because just because you try to like stop it won't.
See, I probably die from a panic attack. I don't think so. Oh my God, but. No, I will mention this, one of her panic attacks. Sometimes I have to determine, and you as a parent will have to notice if it's a panic attack or them being a hypochondriac. Because remember that day you called the ambulance? Because
oh no, I was so sick. Okay, let me tell the story because this was all on me though. This was my fault. I gave myself food poisoning, being greedy. It was some chicken Alfredo pizza from Pizza Hut. Don't eat there anymore. Sorry, no copyright. But it was a chicken Alfredo pizza. I'm sorry. But it was some chicken Alfredo pizza. And I'm like, I got leftovers. But I didn't go upstairs and heat it up. So that was on me. So then I ate it. And I'm like, oh my God, I feel terrible. I'm sweating. I have this worst cramp in my stomach. It hurts so bad. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm dying. Like it felt like something was trying to crawl out. Like on that Alien movie where the thing was popping out the stomach. You know what I'm talking about. So then I was like laying on the couch and I'm like throwing up and I'm gagging. And Jamil's like, oh my gosh, something's wrong with Simone. And he's panicking. And did you have a niece with you?
Mm-hmm. I wasn't home.
Yeah. So I called 911 because she said she was on her way back. But this pain was like terrible. This was worse than cramps. This was worse. I don't know. It was up there with childbirth. It felt like it. But it hurt so bad. So then they take me to the hospital. By the time I get off the truck, because we had to hit every pothole at EC, I'm throwing up all over the place. And I'm like, Jesus, I am so sick. But I was sick because they said I had food poisoning. But
But it wasn't a panic attack.
No, but it was a stomach ache and it was bad.
So what basically you have to determine, I think for me.
I was dehydrated too.
you have to determine what really is a panic attack and what is them just being nervous and anxious about life. I know those are questions that I ask you, like, okay, now, are you just upset because you got some bad news, or are you really having a panic attack? Like, or are you upset because something didn't go your way, or is it really a panic attack?
Bad
sometimes
news can trigger.
Yeah, but I think sometimes it's not a panic attack. Like, sometimes I think it's life. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if I get a bill that I wasn't expecting, I have a little panic attack myself. You know what I'm saying? So I think being her mom, I have to determine sometimes whether or not it's a panic attack or whether it's time for me to teach her a life lesson at that time. Like, you're only panicking because X, Y, and Z, and had you taken these other steps, then you might not have been panicking. So parents, we really we never stop parenting. You know what I'm saying? Even though I might make fun of her all the time, like, yeah, she's finally moved out. But I'm never going to stop being her mom. I'm never going to stop caring about how her life goes, and I'm never going to stop directing her. So we as parents, it's our job to just continue to pour into our children. Like, you make the conscious decision to pour into other people. Your first line of defense is pouring into the people you gave birth to, you know. So why wouldn't you want to see them healthy and happy and encouraging them to go in a good direction? So if you had to wrap this up and tell people, like, give either, well, you can give both. Give a quote that you live by that helps, you know, get you through your panic attacks, and give them one final tip. What would you say?
A quote. I don't know many quotes.
That's fine.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I know Bible verses though.
Okay.
You know the.
Somebody Bible taught them.
I
hope you get it right.
You know, what's it? No weapon formed against me shall prosper.
Mm-hmm.
I live by that one, because anxiety makes you feel like that. You gotta keep telling yourself that, you know, if anything gonna happen to you, it's gonna happen, and it's, you know, it's for a reason. So you can't just, you know, you can't stop stuff from happening. And anxiety, you think you can stop stuff from happening, but the world gonna move, and time gonna tell, and you just gotta evolve with it. But communication is really big for anxiety. So communicate, talk about it, and that's it.
And I would say, I would leave you guys with this note that don't be afraid to admit that something is going on with your family. Like, all too often we keep secrets from people outside of our families, and we don't get the support that we need to handle situations, so that we go a long time, you know, with resentment and being angry and, you know, being depressed because we don't get the support and the help that we need. But it was really me expressing to people like, hey, we're going through this issue and I'm trying to figure out how to deal with it. Can you help me, or can you help her? You know what I'm saying? Like, if she can't talk to me, can she come and talk to you? And, you know, I have a tribe full of people that, like, I'm like, hey, if the kids ever feel like they can't come to me for something, then please let me know that that you'll be available for them. And that's the importance of getting people around you who want to see you thrive and who also want to see your family thrive. So I'm ecstatic. I'm proud of you. Let me tell you, we've had some breakthroughs in anxiety, and I'll end with that. One, Simone is terrified of elevators. Like, there have been times where I've seen her put stuff on the elevator, and I'm like, just get on with it. She's like, no,
I'll run to the
and
stairs.
she will run, and I mean up a lot of flight of stairs. I'm like, oh, girl, you know. But the other day, she got on the elevator, and I was like, oh, and it wasn't like intense. She was like, just get on. I'm like, okay. We got on. We only went one floor up, but still, that was a breakthrough. She got on the freeway. I don't like riding with Simone. I ain't gonna lie, for other reasons. But you know, she called me. She was like, "Hey, I had to drive pretty far out." And she was like, "I want to get home quicker." Like, she was like, "I want to ride through the city. It's too many potholes." And so she said, "I'm going to get on the freeway." She said, "I'm not going to talk to you." She said, "I'm just telling you that I'm getting on the freeway." Yeah. And so that way I know that if she called me and she was stuck on the freeway, I was going to have to come get her. But she got on the freeway, and I could see her, like, track record driving. I'm like, oh, okay, she's doing it. And what was the other thing? You did something else that I was like, I was proud of you with.
I actually went to Walmart the other day.
Oh,
I was in there for a long
She went to Walmart. Walmart is a big thing for our family. Like, I don't know what it is.
It's like, okay, finally when you're done shopping, my anxiety is like, oh yes, we're out of here. And then the line is as long as you were in there. So I was like, oh my gosh, it's like,
But she stayed in there and she went
Yeah, I was in
grocery
there.
shopping. And you working and having your own apartment and stuff like that. Stuff that we like take for granted. You know what I'm saying? When you just meet in a crowd of people, like I'm an extrovert. I'm sure everybody knows that. Like I have no problem like going out and meeting people and stuff like that. But that's difficult for a lot of people.
Went out for my birthday.
And it's 10 times worse when you have an anxiety issue. So I'm proud of her for those things. Hey, hotties, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. You are an amazing following. To follow me and the hottest kids at justoneHotMom.com. That is the blog. And follow all my social media where you will be getting that fire, that flavor, that heat, all things saucy from around the world and in your neighborhood at Just One Hot Mom. Guess what, hotties? You've been tuned in and you've been elevated. Talk to you soon.
See ya.
Good night.